Week 16, week 16, week 16. How I know so many of us waited for this week. A glorious week where we're going to win our championships. But now the biggest question is, did you face Alvin Kamara? Did you deal with Mike Evans? Do you have your lineup set? Well, those are the biggest questions that we're asking today. And those are the biggest questions that we're going to try to help you out with today as well. I think that most of you guys have known and seen that, we are the Daily Sporting. We do fantasy football, baseball, basketball content. We do our best to make sure that you guys win your leagues. And this week is, a week unlike many others, as this is championship weekend in most weeks and leagues. Okay. This week, I think, is going to be very interesting when you think about what we're dealing with already. We've seen Alvin Kamara go off for NFL, tying the NFL record with six touchdowns. Okay, this past week. Also, on top of that, we saw Mike Evans go ham today. He scored. We're looking at Mike Evans had 2 touchdowns, over 100 and change receiving yards. So he definitely also had a big day. So I think that when we look at, what's coming up ahead, we need to maximize and optimize our rosters and lineups to make sure that we can get the best out of our teams. Now, I know that one particular player that we're seeing a lot of questions about is Kittle. George Kittle has so many questions surrounding him. And guys, in case you have any questions, just feel free to drop them in the chat section below. I'm answering all sorts of questions. We're going to make this a quick little 20 minute recap of what we've seen and what we're looking at going forward. So far, only 2 games have played. We have 2 more games left for the rest of this Saturday, and then we have a full slate on Sunday with 1 game on Monday. So the championships are starting to get tighter and starting to get closer. I think that in this game, if you had a Detroit Lions player, you got completely bamboozled and hoodwinked. Let's look at what happened here. Marvin Jones last week had a phenomenal game, blew up, had great numbers. This week, we're not seeing anything from him. We're looking at guys like, Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford wasn't even playing in this game at a certain point in time. He was gone. Swift didn't do nothing. We saw Fournette put up some decent numbers. As expected, but the main story of today's game has been, the wide receiving core. We have 2 touchdowns from Gronk. We have 2 touchdowns from Mike Evans. We got 1 touchdown from Godwin. We got 1 touchdown from Brown. So the receiving core from the Bucs really came through. If you're Antonio Brown owner like myself, you got bailed out at the end of the first half. We knew that was going to be his last chance to probably more than likely get any kind of points, and luckily he did. Okay, so I think that was a huge thing for a lot of us owners in that aspect. All right. Now, the next thing that we're looking at is Kittle. Is he going to play? How is it going to work? Right now, I think this is one of the cooler things that I've seen in regards to Kittle, because I know Kittle is the main topic du jour. Right here, we see that Kittle is going to be playing today. He's going to be playing on a limited basis. Okay, but he is going to be matching up he's going to be teaming up with his old college teammate from Iowa, CJ Beathard, who's going to be playing quarterback for the 49ers in this game versus the Cardinals. Okay, are they playing? No, they should be playing the Seattle Seahawks, right? No, it's Cardinals. Okay, so it's the Cardinals and the 49ers. In this game, we're going to have no quarterback for the 49ers. They're going to be running with George Kittle. We already know that Deebo Samuel is out, so this means Ayuk is going to be the main wide receiver. And, Kendrick Bourne, I guess you would say, is maybe the number 2. And especially after we saw last week, Kendrick Bourne caught, a 45-yard touchdown pass at the end of the game as a Hail Mary play. I don't recommend at all playing Bourne now that Kittle is back. Last week, Kittle had or Bourne had a little bit of upside because of the fact that you didn't have to deal with Kittle there and there was no Deebo. So it definitely gave a lot of opportunity for him to actually get some points, get some yards, and put some work in PPR. But I don't think that's going to happen this week. Kittle, we don't know what kind of workload he's going to be on. And I think that's very scary. I've seen a lot of people debating whether it be I've seen people asking Logan Thomas or Kittle, because Logan Thomas was a trendy player that people picked up once Kittle was out. But then when we think about it, Kittle on a reduced snap count, even though he's still probably the best tight end in the game, him and Kelsey, or you're going to take a guy like Thomas or take a guy like Fant, who, even though, they're not a top guy like Kittle, but they're going to be on the field more. And I think that becomes a very sticky situation for a lot of owners if you do have a Kittle, because you spent high draft capital on him. You're expecting big things from him. And to get him back with a glimmer of a shot in the playoffs and in the finals, I think that leaves you with the wanting of, maybe I can throw Kittle in there and hit a home run, especially if you are facing guys like Mike Evans and you're facing guys like Alvin Kamara last week, and guys like Tom Brady, who absolutely went off this week, and you need to hit a home run. I think Kittle could be the guy, but it depends on who you're talking about. Like, if you're sitting in a situation, Noah Fant hasn't really been that great this year. He's been decent. He's been serviceable for a tight end. We consider him a top 10 tight end, but overall, he hasn't been that great. Last week, he had a monster game versus for the Denver. He scored a touchdown after not scoring a touchdown since week 2. The question is, what do we expect from him in this game? Do we expect him to have some sort of repeat? Let's pull up the matchup for him. Noah Fant is facing the Chargers. The Chargers really aren't a tough defense. And we saw the Chargers got blown up by Waller. So if you have a guy like Noah Fant, I would start him over a guy like Kittle, just because I do believe that he's going to have more of an upside to put in work. And he's been, pretty solid. This is a 1-point PPR league. And if we can just show you points here since week 6. Okay. So we're talking about week 7, 6, 11, 7, 4, 9, 2, 9, 0, 20. So this definitely came out of nowhere. We didn't expect this, but this was more of a game where he was checking down. Okay, Locke was just checking down. He was getting it to his nearest receiver. Do I expect a repeat of this performance versus the Chargers? No. But if you're comparing him against a guy like Kittle, who I know a lot of people are debating if they should even play him, I would more than likely lean toward Fant, because he has a pretty good matchup. He's been pretty solid. He has a good floor, and he has a decent ceiling. Kittle, I mean, we just don't have enough information. I've been looking through and just trying to see if anyone has any of the Kittle information that we would be looking for, like anything about exactly how much of the game they plan on playing. And here's the other thing: I just don't really see them having the opportunity to play. Or what are they playing for that they're going to play Kittle so much? So I think this is definitely a buyer beware or a start beware situation. Another player to be looking at here is Kenyon Drake and Edmonds. Okay, so Chase Edmonds just got cleared of any kind of injury concern or protocol. Okay, he's going to be fully active. Now, if we look at the difference in some of these players last week, we can look at a guy like Kenyon Drake, right? Kenyon Drake last week didn't have that great of a game. He's really started coming on 16, 24, 13, 16. Last week versus Philly, in a game where we came into this game with Edmonds being limited, and he was limited all throughout practice for the week. And we came in and Drake played, and Drake did nothing. Drake didn't really get anything. And in this same game, and this is why I love having them both here, so I can show you, Edmonds came in, and Edmonds was a big player in this game, and he caught a touchdown. And Edmonds has been really useful in this passing game. Now, with the way this game is set up versus the San Francisco 49ers team that has lost so much of their team, I think it's hard to really determine what to expect. Last week, Drake did leave the game with an injury. And I didn't see anything, or I didn't see too much about Drake's injury during the week. So let me just try to see if I can pull this up for you guys. Kenyon Drake, there we go. If we look at this now, I mean, this is the debate. I'm starting both of these guys, Kenyon Drake and Myles Gaskins. I don't really have much of a choice. Myles Gaskins is a whole nother case, and we'll get to him right after we finish with Drake. But I mean, I think if we're looking at this situation, it's really hard. I don't see anything. Kenyon Drake injury. I don't see anything about Kenyon Drake's injury or that he's shown up on a report or that there's been any news about it. Kenyon Drake, who left latest, similar injury. He should be healthy. Yeah, so there's really nothing showing up about Kenyon Drake's injuries. What's going on here? I think that this is going to be, entering week 14 was the PPR number 9. and his four backs. I just oh, that was back then. He's been solid. I mean, if we look at Drake's numbers, I think he's a hard guy to bench at this point in time, just because he's been so particularly solid throughout this season, especially over these last few games. You know, last game, yes, he had the 10 carries for 26 yards, which I know chilled a lot of people. And he left the game, and you thought that he might not come back. So, and then Edmonds was also featured over Drake in clutch fourth quarter drives. I think it's just hard situation here to really trust either one of them. I think they're both pretty solid, but I don't trust them to be world beaters. And I think that's the one thing that we have to look at and realize when we're going at these guys that, you know, they might not be what the fuck. Okay, they might not be in the best situation to carry us to victory, but they might be able to just get us some solid points. And I do think this is an interesting game that we're going to have to be looking at with Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds. I know that's kicking off in about 24 minutes. I think that Edmonds is going to be someone that if you're in desperation, I think he could be a solid play. And I think Drake could be a solid play. I think both these guys show up today and have decent days versus this 49ers defense. If we saw what the 49ers did last week to Pollard, I mean, you definitely want at least one of these guys in your lineup if you're able to do that. Another player that we're going to talk about here before we wrap this up, and I wanted to make this just super quick because I know there was a lot of people that were debating these questions between, you know, Drake and Gaskins and Kittle and all the other guys that have all these questionable you know, marks on him going into this game. We know for this game tonight, we're expecting 5 games back for this Dolphins and Raiders game tonight. And this Dolphins and Raiders game is going to be playing basically for a playoff spot in the NFL. I think this game right here is going to be very, very important and very clutch to making that final playoff spot in the AFC. And for that reason, we're pretty much going to assume that the Dolphins are going to have all their players that they held out last week or the key guys back. We're expecting to see a lot of the key guys back, including Devontae Parker, Jakeem Grant, Myles Gaskins, Eric Flowers, and Mike Gesicki. All of them coming back this week. Now, last week, 2 players that I picked up and I started, Salvon Ahmed and Lynn Bowden Jr., we're expecting them to take a step back this week because now there's going to be so many more playmakers back for the Dolphins this week. What that means to me is this. Guys like Myles Gaskins, who a lot of people now are questioning, should they start him even? Because when you look at what Salvon Ahmed has done over the last, you know, couple of games, he's been really solid and been really helpful for this Dolphins lineup. And I'll say this, before Salvon Ahmed took over, Myles Gaskin had this job locked down, and then he had caught COVID, and then Ahmed came back and was really dominating. But if we look at what Myles Gaskins did before he had COVID, so look, he was out with COVID. He had 14 points. Then he was out 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row. Then he had 13, 19, 20, 9, 14, 14, 10. So if we're looking at what Myles Gaskins has done over this season, he has only one game that he's played in that he scored under 10 points in full point PPR. I think that there's no way, as long as you're getting a clean bill of health with Myles Gaskins, that you can bench him. You just can't. It's impossible. His numbers and what he's done has been too good. And Salvon Ahmed, we're figuring, is going to be taking much more of a back seat in this game. And Salvon Ahmed has been really good in the rushing game. If you look at his last 3 games, I think this is why people have the question, is he's been really good as well. Now, are they going to put them into a committee type situation where they split carries? I don't know. I've been looking for more information around that, and I haven't seen anything from the coaches or being posted by any other outlets. So I don't know exactly what they plan on doing in this situation with Ahmed and with Gaskin. So I think this is going to be something that going forward, we're going to have to keep an eye on and look at and see what happens. But I think these are the main things that we're looking at going into today. Obviously, tomorrow is going to be a whole different ball game after we see what Kyler Murray does and what Tua does, and what Carr is supposed to play tonight for the Raiders. How well does Carr hook up Waller? So tonight there's going to be a lot of big names out there playing. We're going to have guys like Ayuk, who I know is probably on a lot of rosters that are still in it, because guess what? He's a guy that you picked up and really helped you. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting game. These last two games that we have, I think that we can very much be looking at a situation where the Cardinals could hopefully run over the 49ers, and it's a situation hopefully where the 49ers are playing catch up. So if you do start a guy like Kittle, you might be able to get some cheap points. But with a guy like Kittle, if they're blown out early, they may pull him and put it into a bad situation. So I think that's something that you definitely have to look at. Now, hello, Marco. So I see Kittle or Logan Thomas point PPR. I was discussing this with my friend earlier, which is the reason why I decided to do this whole live, is because this was the exact question he proposed to me: Kittle versus Logan. And I just feel like Logan has been so solid for so many teams. When you look at what Logan Thomas has done, I just want to pull up his stats here. I know that you said half point PPR, so I'll make sure that I keep that in mind when I calculate his score here, because this is full point PPR. But Marcos, if we look at what Logan Thomas has done over his last couple of games, okay, he's had 13 catches for 101 yards, 6 catches for 43 yards, 9 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown, 4 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. So pretty much since that Thanksgiving game, he's gotten you solid points. In half point PPR, those touchdowns save you. This is probably the only week versus San Francisco where you're kind of like, he let me down a little bit. But considering how bad tight ends are, this is not even a bad stat line. I think I would probably lean more towards a Logan Thomas because of the fact that we're not going to have Terry McLaurin this week for the Washington football team. So since there's going to be no Terry McLaurin, I think this sets up Logan for a huge game where he could be a real focal point of the offense. And Kittle, it's just such a risky situation. Like, I can't say, there's no shot Kittle's going to do anything, because that's completely, untrue. We don't know what's going to happen. But I think that it's a real case where you're going to have to sit there and debate, do you need a guy that can really ball out, then go with Thomas? If you want a safe guy, I mean, honestly, I think they're both pretty safe, other than the fact that Kittle could just, sorry, let me rephrase this. Logan Thomas is safe. Kittle is a huge risk with a lot of upside. His upside is that he can go off, he can score a couple touchdowns, he can have a big game, but his also risk is that he can get pulled from this game early, end up doing nothing, and then you're screwed in your finals in a tight end spot. So I would go Logan Thomas. I think his volume there is the way to go, and that's the way I would roll with this one, Marcos. Even though Kittle is a stud, and it's hard to bench him, I think he could score this week, but I think Logan Thomas is the safer one. Okay. If you have any other questions, Marcos, we're going to be here also tomorrow answering them for you. And then H Gaines. So you got Fant or Logan Thomas. I think this is another tough situation. I'm thinking, again, Logan Thomas is someone that has a good matchup and has played pretty well, and there's no Terry McLaurin, which gives him more volume opportunity. Now, Noah Fant, I was just talking about him earlier. Noah Fant has been pretty solid over his last couple of games. But if we look at Noah Fant, he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 2 when he scored this touchdown this week. So let me just pull up his numbers just so we can get a quick idea. Noah Fant had 20, then he had 0, 9, 2, 9, 4, 7. And this is in 1 point PPR. So I would lean more toward Logan Thomas because of the situation, but I don't think either one of these are a bad play. I think Noah Fant is still a top 10 play at tight end. I think Noah Fant has a good matchup here versus the Chargers, but I would probably start Logan Thomas over Noah Fant for the fact that Noah Fant is not getting the same work that Thomas is, and Noah Fant has more guys that he's going to be competing with for targets and for getting catches. So I would lean more towards Logan Thomas of those two, especially in 1 point PPR. I'm definitely starting Logan Thomas. AJ Brown or Rashard Higgins? Now that's an interesting question. AJ Brown, to me, is almost one of those guys where I can't bench him. Like AJ Brown every week is that opportunity to blow up. He's like DK Metcalf There's really not many cornerbacks in this game that I can see that would really be able to guard him and stop him from doing anything that he wants. Obviously, he's a little boom or bust, but for the most part, he's like the old AB. He's booming. Now, if we're looking at Rashard Higgins, first of all, he has a great matchup versus the Jets. I mean, it's just a great matchup. The Jets' defense is putrid. And if you look at what he's done over his last 3 games, 21, 18, 11, he's been balling. He's gotten catches, 6, 6, 4. Got a touchdown 2 of those games. And this game, they weren't even competitive, so it's hard to expect Higgins getting that touchdown. Higgins is looking pretty good. So let's look at A.J. Brown. Take a quick look here. A.J. Brown. Boom. Okay, but A.J. Brown, 15, 24, 10, 25, 16, Green Bay. Honestly, I think you have to start A.J. Brown because he's your stud. He's a guy that's been doing phenomenal. And there's a good chance in that Jets game that they get up early and they just go to the run game in Cleveland. Cleveland wants to run the ball. Like, that's the way Cleveland wants to play. Cleveland wants to run the ball. So I do think that Higgins is a great matchup. I think if you had, maybe a different player that you were putting him against, I would go Higgins. But A.J. Brown, even though he has a tougher matchup, he's not someone that I take out of my lineup. A.J. Brown is a certified, bona fide stud. And in the playoffs, you don't bench your studs. That's just how it is. Unless your guy's on one leg and he has the worst matchup and he's not played good in a couple of weeks, then maybe I can understand it. But in these weeks, when you draft a guy like A.J. Brown, look at what his numbers have been. He's maybe thrown up 2 games all season where he did not at least get you 10 points. At least. So he is the safest by far. He is just too talented. I consider him just like DK Metcalf. These guys are matchup proof. They can go up against anyone. Ayuk or Higgins. Now that's a tough one. I think that Higgins is a safer one because of the fact that he has Baker there. Ayuk is going to be going with the third string quarterback, CJ Beathard. I think that in most cases, the reason why Ayuk might have a shot is just because of the fact that there's a good chance that Arizona could put up enough points early that San Francisco is going to be playing catch-up all game, and Ayuk can get points. Ayuk also, if I'll just pull up his numbers for you real quick, because I am an Ayuk owner. All right, so I can just give you his just rundown real quick, and I know you're in half-point PPR, but if you look at his numbers, 22, 21, 20, 19, 23, 17, 9 catches, 10 catches, 5 catches, 7 catches, 8 catches, he gets work, man. And in this game, even though they're getting Kittle back, I expect him to be the focal point of their passing game. So I do expect a big game from Ayuk. But in this sense, because he's going with the third string quarterback, I would probably lean towards Higgins because Higgins has also been playing really good and he has a really good matchup as well. So I think that Higgins would be more than likely to play only because Ayuk is going with the third string quarterback and I just don't know what to expect from him. Otherwise, I think they're pretty much equal. If it would be Mullins, I would probably say Ayuk over Higgins because I know that Ayuk and Mullins had a good rapport, and I think in this kind of a game they're going to be down, and it favors Ayuk. But with the big unknown of them using a quarterback that's third string that hasn't really played that much, I think it's hard. I think it's hard to say that you trust Ayuk more than Higgins when, Higgins is rolling versus the Jets, which is one of the worst secondaries in the league. And he has Baker Mayfield there, who he has good chemistry with. So I think this is a super tough one. It's very hard, but I would probably lean towards Higgins just because of the matchup and the quarterback chemistry. But Ayuk, man, I'm telling you, I expect Ayuk to have a good game. So, I mean, again, I think both those players that you have there are projected and should have good games. I'm personally rolling Ayuk. Obviously, I've had him, on my team for pretty much all year. And if we look at the numbers, he's been super solid. I'm just hoping that him and this quarterback can keep it going on. And that's the only reason why I do take Higgins is because it's a crapshoot. I just don't know exactly what to expect out of Ayuk and CJ. And I'm hoping that Kittle really doesn't cut into his volume and actually help Ayuk because Kittle may just draw some more defenders and open up the field for Ayuk. But I think this game's going to be very interesting. I know that the 49ers are going to play this game to win because they want to make the playoffs, and beating the Cardinals opens up the door for them again. So I think this game is going to be super competitive, just like the game after it. I think that we have a lot of expectations of some of these 49er players. Mostart just went to the IR. So I know that if you have Jeff Wilson, you're going to want him to fucking ball out. Like, you need him, especially like if you got him off the waiver wire or replace some of these other guys. Jeff Wilson is going to be someone that you're going to want to try to get in your lineups this week. I think Jeff Wilson has a shot to have a pretty decent game. Like I said, the debate between Edmonds and Drake is super tough. I think both of them could have a really good game. I do feel a little bit worried about Drake because he left the last game early, and then we saw Edmonds really start to take over. So my biggest question is going to be what's going to happen in this game and how does this shake out? But I mean, if you look at the projections, it's just a true toss up. So it's scary, man. It's scary because just like some of the other ones, I'm debating between Drake and Edmonds. Do I start both? Do I start one? How does this work? So I'm in it with y'all guys. I got Metcalf that I'm looking at. I don't know if I bench him versus Ramsey, but I got to take my own advice. I don't bench my studs, even it is a tough matchup, just because, let's face it, DK Metcalf got me to the dance. If he loses it, it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. I'll second guess myself, but benching him and him blowing up is a lot worse. But everyone, I wish you the best of luck with this week 16. It's championship weekend. So I hope that y'all enjoyed your Christmas holidays with your family, with your friends. I hope you got all the love and the presents and the gifts that you were looking for. And now, this Saturday and Sunday and Monday, we're looking to dominate these people. It's championship weekend, people. So let's get it right. Let's get it tight. Let's win this championship. I hope everyone stays safe, and I'll check y'all later.